Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about incidence and prevalence of the disease. It is absolutely necessary to understand what incidence and prevalence are and what is the difference between two. Let's get started. Incidence measure probability or risk of the disease, while prevalence measure load of the disease in the community. Let's first define incidence. It is defined as a number of new cases of a particular disease in a specified time period divided by total number of people at risk of developing that disease in that population during the same time period. The numbers above the line known as numerator and the below the line known as denominator. It's up to you if you want to calculate rate per thousand then multiply it by 1000 or 100 if you want it in a percentage. For example, in a group of 10 women who were free of disease, 3 develop uterine cancer in a year. So there will be a 3 divided by 10 multiplied by 1000 gives incidence rate of 300 cases per 1000 population per year. It is important to note that every person in the denominator must have potential to be a part of numerator. In our example, these 3 women have transitioned from healthy state to disease state. Incidence is a measure of event and therefore a measure of risk. So we said that everyone in denominator must have potential to become a member of the disease group. Let us come back to our example of uterine cancer. Suppose if the 2 women have a history of hysterectomy, then they will no longer have a risk of developing uterine cancer, and so they have to be removed from denominator. Recalculating incidence, now instead of 3 by 10, it would be 3 by 8 multiplied by 1000 equals the new incidence rate of 375 per 1000 population. And don't forget to mention specific time period while describing incidence rate. Alright, what is prevalence? It is defined as all new plus old cases in total population at given point of time. In our previous example, if one was old case, then prevalence would be 4 divided by 10 multiplied by 1000 gives us a prevalence of 400 cases per 1000 population. Let us take another example to make it clear what is incidence and what is prevalence. Let's take a group of 5 people who develop tuberculosis over a period of 6 months. One develops the disease in January, one in February, 2 in March and 1 in June. For incidence, we ask how many new cases in specific time. In this example, there are 2 new cases in March, 1 new case in January and 1 case each in February and June. Now, prevalence also takes into account the duration of the disease. Suppose if the case number 1 cured in June, case number 2 in April, case number 3 in May, and case number 4 and 5 in the later part of the year. To calculate prevalence, we ask how many new and old cases in specified time, in this example, month. And so the prevalence of tuberculosis in each month, all the existing plus new cases in that month. We have 1 case in January, 2 cases in February, 4 in March, 4 in April, 3 in May and 3 in June. So prevalence is determined by how many people join the prevalence pool or incidence and how many leave the prevalence pool through death or cure. Let us take analogy of a vessel filled with water or new cases, where new cases are coming continuously flowing and it is emptied by death or cure. This means that if the death goes up, then more people will leave the vessel, and if the death goes down, then more people will stay in the vessel. And the same thing applies for cure. If more people are cured, more people will leave the vessel, and if the cure rate goes down, then more people will stay in the vessel. If incidence goes up, but the death and cure rate remain same, prevalence increase. Same is true when death goes down and cure rate stays same. Prevalence decrease when death goes down and cure rate increase. This information is crucial while planning prevention and control of different diseases. Prevalence measure burden of the disease. It can be presented as incidence multiplied by duration. Duration decided by the death or the cure rate of the disease. As prevalence measure the burden of the disease in the community, it will help us for the planning of the health services and allocating the resources in a proper manner. This is not limited to burden in terms of monetary cost. It also reflects burden in terms of life expectancy, morbidity, quality of life, or other indicators. If the death rate or cure rate increase, then the disease duration will be shortened. If death rate and cure rate decrease, disease duration will be prolonged. In most of the time, prevalence will be low with shorter duration disease, and prevalence will be high with longer duration disease. Let's understand this with the example. Coronary heart disease prevalence in two cities compared. One is Mumbai and other is Indore. In this hypothetical example, Mumbai has prevalence of 60 cases per 1000 population and Indore has prevalence of 10 cases per 1000 population. It's look like risk of disease more in Mumbai. Well, it's not because prevalence is not a measure of risk but it shows the disease burden in the community. Let's look at the incidence rate and duration of disease in both locations. Incidence rate is 5 per 1000 per year in both places, but duration of disease is 12 years in Mumbai due to better care, whereas in Indore people die within 2 years of CHD. So higher prevalence in Mumbai is just because of the better care prolonging life. As we said, prevalence is equal to incidence multiplied by duration, so 5 times 12 is 60 and 5 times 2 is 10. So that's about incidence and prevalence of the disease. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave us like and subscribe the channel. See you in the next video.